How we doing, guys? Hope you enjoyed that little montage I put together. That was all filmed using something called a Cinewhoop. And if you don't know what Cinewhoop is, it's basically something that looks like this. So it's a 3-inch drone or 3-inch quad. And the reason that I really like this quad is because I feel like it's a really good crossover or transition from the traditional Mavic DJI Mavic drones that we're all used to using into FPV, as it's a bit more forgiving when you fly. They don't go quite as fast or with as much acceleration. And the biggest thing that I like about it is these ducts that are around the propellers, or prop guards if you will. Yeah, I just love the fact that these are on, just because it allows me to film around people or just film in maybe slightly busier areas and not feel quite as stressed out flying. If I'm gonna go and have a flight session with this, I'd have to make sure that I'm out kind of in the middle of nowhere with no people around. And although I love flying this in terms of the adrenaline rush you get, the speed that you can get up to, the 80-90 mile an hour speeds that you can get up to, and all the acrobatic stuff you can do with like dives and flips and power loops, that stuff is so fun. But for more like practical filmmaking purposes, I definitely can see me using this a lot more often, especially if it's involving talent, filming around them, or just filming maybe indoors, for example, in an area where you might need to show off a certain indoor venue, for example. This could be flown around really easy. It's really light, and like I say, with these ducts, there's pretty much no way anything or anyone can get cut unless something gets sort of caught inside of it, like a finger or anything, like if it falls on something. But otherwise, yeah, I've been flying it around from these clips that I'll show you up on the screen now with my friend Washington, who was on an EUC, and yeah, I was flying it around him and he felt, completely safe, and I felt, safe as well flying it around him. So yeah, that's like a huge reason why these things are awesome, in my opinion. So these are mainly designed to be sort of flown quite slowly and cinematically, let's say, which means it's kind of a tool that you want to use to get shots that you're like sort of pre-planning out, maybe with people. As I mentioned, you'll plan out a little sequence of where somebody's going to walk into or where they're going to go, and you're going to fly around them. And it's not typically going to be something that's like crazy fast or loopy or acrobatic. It's going to be something quite slow and smooth, and that's pretty much what they're kind of designed for, which, as I said, goes hand in hand with filmmaking and using other things like gimbals, for example. It can kind of cross over into that. But as well as that, they still do have some good power in them. Something like this, the Shendrones Squirt 3-inch, it still does have a decent amount of power, so you still can go up high and go down low into a low shot quite quickly, as you would be able to do similarly with this 5-inch. So yeah, as I mentioned, I put together this one, which is known as the Shendrones Squirt, which is one of the most popular Cinewhoops, I believe, especially in America. It was a little bit difficult for me to get the parts over here to put it together. Not a lot of places were stocking these things, but yeah, I did manage to get the frame and the ducts and stuff off eBay. And yeah, if you are interested in knowing what all the components are that I put together, I'll just put that up on the screen now. So camera wise, I am using still like the GoPro Hero 6, and it's a great camera to use with this drone, especially because you can use a software called Real Steady Go, which I bought it for like $100, but now it's like really cheap. It's like $70 or something, and it's literally amazing. If you know anything about like the new Sony cameras that are coming out, like the A7C, A7S3 FX cameras that come with that Catalyst browse software, it's the same thing pretty much, just for GoPros, and it pretty much just takes like the gyro data, inputs it into the software, and uses that to stabilize the footage, and it does such an amazing job. Like some shots where I'm thinking not even usable as I'm flying, put it in the software and it just somehow it stabilizes it. It's just incredible. So that's really good to use with the GoPro Hero 6, especially because I think it's like optimized for the Hero 6. I'm not 100% sure, and more specifically, you're supposed to have it on firmware 1.6, which is not the latest firmware. You still want to make sure you're flying it as smoothly as possible and getting as smooth a movements as possible. You don't want to be going crazy with it, but just having that stabilization in post with the Real Steady Go has just made this footage look so smooth. It's really nice. So as much as I'm praising having these ducts on this 3-inch Shendrones Squirt, they do actually cause a couple of big disadvantages as well. One of them is flying in wind. You kind of feel like you don't have as much control when it's quite windy with this thing. And that's mainly, I guess, because the wind is getting caught up in the ducts and blowing it around a bit more than this, which just cuts through any wind. So I guess, yeah, that makes sense in a way, but it is a kind of a disadvantage, especially for someone like me who lives in London, where the weather's never really ideal. If you live in a hot country where you don't really get any wind, then don't worry about it. But the second thing is the noise. Again, because of the ducts, I believe, and because the props are really close up against the ducts, it does cause quite a bit of noise compared to this or a Mavic drone. So yeah, in conclusion, like I say, really awesome little tool to have if you're into drone flying. And if you're thinking about getting into FPV, probably start off with something like this. It's probably a mistake that I made going straight into this 5-inch one. I probably should have started with something like this, because like I say, when you are flying it and you are adding throttle, it's a bit less acceleration. I know you can play around with all that kind of throttle expo and stuff on this as well, but yeah, I just think overall, if you wanted to get started, especially if you're coming from flying Mavics and stuff and you're looking to get a kind of FPV shot that's not crazy acrobatic or doing a lot of freestyle and tricks, this is probably the way to go to start off with. I can see me using it a lot in a filmmaking professional sense, but yeah, like as far as just sort of going out and flying for fun, which is something that I like to do quite a bit now, I would say this is still the best one, just in terms of the things that you can do with it. A lot more variety. You can learn tricks and acro things if that's what you want to do. Again, thanks very much for watching today's video, and if you've got any questions, leave them down in the comments. Let me know if you're flying FPV or if you're thinking about getting into it, all that kind of stuff. We can have a little discussion. Leave a like on it if it was useful. Thanks very much for watching, and take care.